It's 9:59 on the 2nd of November, and in the midst of all these matters that have been caused, that have been unresolved, that have involved very serious exploitation and violation of my privacy and my constitutional rights, the issue of individuals that have been trespassing on my marital property and imposing upon my abodes since 2016 are to this day still of an objective of displacement and denigration against my property rights and my patronage. So the standards of living have been quite poor, the provisions have not been fulfilled, and there have been individuals that have been of a retaliatory process that is quite dangerous. As I've mentioned, I'm of humanitarian protection. I have done humanitarian work in China. I've done humanitarian work on behalf of education in Cuba. In 2003, I had the good fortune of traveling to both China and Cuba for educational purposes. The fundraising I accomplished in 2003 for the expedition to China was to help developments in Mozambique, and the educational humanitarian expedition to Cuba was to help improve the education standards that were just initiating then back in 2003. So as a humanitarian and as a teacher of a clean track record, I'm really surprised that even as a recipient of the Duke of Edinburgh Award and the Gashga Award, these culprits of offences against my patronage, my royal patronage and my property are still attempting to cause displacement and denigration and debasement, and they have debts that are exorbitant that revert back to 2006. So the evasion, the tax evasion that was uncovered in 2018, that is also a part of my humanitarian endeavour. The tax evasion that was occurring is still an issue that the relevant policymakers, politicians and practitioners have not respected dutifully. So the individuals that are disrespecting my humanitarian protection and my educational endeavours in China and Cuba and in Europe, where I've also worked, are of a retaliatory process disrespecting the Department of Education and its role as well for teachers in society. So the issue of the standards of living that I'm experiencing that have been quite poor, and people helping themselves to my wealth that have been guilty of tax evasion and that have been exploiting from my personal experiences, profession and purpose, are in contravention of the Declaration of Human Rights and the Constitution of the democracy. And only this morning there have been liabilities and culprits of very dangerous offences of slander, defamation and offences against the state, and that have been treasonous in my proximity. So this is to highlight that educators in the community that are of humanitarian protection have not been dutifully protected, and the Ombudsman for Children that have still been turning a blind eye to my missing child, and the individuals trespassing onto my farms are still in contempt of for their offences against the state since 2016, when my family home was broken into, and it was reported as an offence, an incident of offence, and then other very dangerous trespassing that occurred since 2016 into my Turbert Hill home. So I'm in a one-bedroom apartment. The conditions are very poor. The departments have been made aware, and there is still retaliatory offences occurring. So as a woman that has helped the purpose of education from Ireland, in China, Europe and Cuba, as a humanitarian, this is a sad sign of the times for the prospects of future educators when they are witnessing a teacher, a law-abiding citizen, being so dangerously violated by culprits of very dangerous theft and fraud. So the tax evasion and the debt recovery that came about as a consequence of my humanitarian endeavours in 2018 is a huge mark of disrespect to those that have been exploiting from my profession, purpose, privacy and patronage. So I hope the guards and the government are aware of my role in legislation, and I hope the Honourable Government will be able to practice a little bit of honourability before any individuals that have been fraudulently not imposing, but fraudulently conducting themselves to acquire from my personal experience that are in contempt against royal blood and the constitution of the country.